On the far edge of Scotland, there is an island battered by endless winds, surrounded by cliffs so tall they swallow the horizon. An island with no trees, no shelter, no inhabitants. Only a single lighthouse and the darkest mystery in maritime history. In December of 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers vanished from this remote rock without leaving behind a single piece of evidence. No bodies, no signs of struggle, not even a clue to explain where they went. Tonight, we investigate the impossible events of the Flannan Isles, the disappearance that has obsessed investigators for over a century. The Eilean Mòr mystery. To understand the mystery, we first have to understand the place. The Flannan Isles are a chain of 7 rocky islands in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. The largest, Eilean Mòr, is barely 39 acres, about the size of a small neighborhood. There are no beaches, only jagged cliffs that drop straight into churning water. The winds can reach hurricane force. Entire boats have been thrown against the rocks, smashed like toys. Yet in 1895, construction began on a brand new lighthouse, one of the most remote ever built. It took 4 years, countless injuries, and even a few lives lost to get it working. But by 1899, 3 men rotated shifts to keep the light burning. Thomas Marshall, the 28-year-old assistant keeper. James Duckett, the 43-year-old principal keeper. Donald MacArthur, a replacement keeper known for his hot temper. They lived alone on the island in an isolated stone house. Each day, they climbed a winding staircase to maintain the lighthouse. Their only communication, a supply boat that arrived once every 2 weeks. It was a lonely existence, but no one expected it to turn deadly. It began the day after Christmas. Relief keepers aboard the ship Hesperus arrived to rotate shifts. By now, the keepers should have been waiting on the dock. But they were. The captain blew the horn again, nothing. They fired a flare, still nothing. The island was completely silent. The lighthouse door was locked. Inside, clocks had stopped. A kitchen table sat untouched with an uneaten meal. One chair was knocked over, as if someone had stood up in a hurry. And strangely, 2 sets of rain gear were missing. The 3rd set was still hanging in place. Whatever had happened to at least 2 of them, and it happened fast. When investigators opened the lighthouse logbook, they found something even more disturbing. December 12, severe winds, more than I have ever seen in 20 years. December 13, storm continues. Duckett is quiet, Marshall is crying. December 14, storm ended. Sea calm, God is over all. The problem, where the records show that during those days, the sea was completely calm. No storms, no hurricane winds, nothing unusual. Why were the men recording non-existent storms? Why was an experienced keeper supposedly crying? Why was the principal keeper quiet, as if in shock? The final entry, God is over all, is the last thing ever written by the keepers. After that, silence. The first official explanation was incredibly simple. They were swept away by a wave. Investigators found ropes dragged across rocks, a damaged crane, and supplies scattered near the West Landing, a notoriously dangerous part of the island. Maybe 2 men went out to secure equipment during a storm. A wave hit. The 3rd ran to help and died the same way. Sounds reasonable until you look deeper. Problems with the wave theory. Weather was calm. There was no storm strong enough to cause such a massive wave. Logbook entries don't match reality. Why record fake storms? Why leave the lighthouse completely unattended? It was against strict regulations. 3 men disappearing together from different areas is extremely unlikely. The wave theory explains some clues, but not the most important ones. Another theory suggests something even darker. One of the keepers snapped. Their isolation, brutal weather, months away from family, these conditions pushed even the strongest men to breaking points. And one keeper, Donald MacArthur, had a known history of violence. He once threw a co-worker out of a bar during a fight. He was also a last-minute replacement for a sick keeper, meaning he wasn't fully trained or mentally prepared for the assignment. Possible scenario. Tensions rise. Arguments break out. A fight leads to an accidental death. The survivors panic and flee or fall from the cliffs. This could explain the knocked-over chair and the missing rain jackets. But again, it doesn't explain the mysterious logbook entries, nor why 3 grown men vanished without leaving behind blood or bodies. Some locals believed something else, that the men were taken by a sea creature. The waters around the Flannan Isles have centuries of folklore: giant sea serpents, massive squids, and mysterious shadows in the waves. Fishermen swore they saw something near the cliffs the week before the disappearance. Was it myth? Probably, but eyewitness accounts, even if questionable, helped cement the legend. Another theory suggests human involvement. Possibilities include a passing ship kidnapping the men, unlikely, as nothing was stolen. Foreign spies, interesting but unsupported. A fight with another lighthouse crew, no records support this. But one detail stands out. A ship sailing nearby reported that the lighthouse light was not on for several days before relief arrived. They assumed the keepers were just late lighting it, but the investigators later realized this was the exact period the men must have vanished. This extends the timeline and deepens the mystery. This is where the story goes from mysterious to chilling. Local folklore tells of a being known as the Phantom of Eilean Mòr, a ghostly figure said to walk the cliffs. Sailors believed the island was cursed long before the lighthouse existed. And then there's a strange, modern coincidence. Years after the disappearance, multiple lighthouse keepers reported hearing footsteps outside when no one was there. Shadowy figures on the cliffs. Whispering voices carried by the wind. One keeper refused to ever return. Did the men see something they couldn't explain? Something that terrified them into abandoning their post? No evidence exists, but the fear among later keepers was real. Let's piece everything together with what we do know. Most likely scenario. Something happened on the West Landing. Evidence of damaged equipment proves they went down there. At least 2 men left the lighthouse. Their coats were missing. The third stayed inside and left fast. His coat was still hanging, and the chair was knocked over. The event was sudden and alarming. But the biggest mystery remains. What was so urgent that all 3 men abandoned the safety of the lighthouse during winter without communication? A sudden natural disaster, a violent accident, a threat on the island. Even the official investigators admitted they had no solid explanation. After over 120 years, the conclusion is this. All 3 men disappeared, and no one knows how. No bodies were ever found, and no evidence has ever surfaced. Every theory has holes, every explanation leaves questions, every clue leads nowhere. The island remains silent, the lighthouse automated, the mystery eternal. In the end, the Flannan Isles mystery leaves us with far more questions than answers. 3 men, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur, vanished without a trace. No bodies. No signs of struggle. Nothing but a silent lighthouse. And an unfinished logbook whispering their final moments. Over a century later, investigators, historians, and storytellers still return to these lonely rocks. Some search for facts. Some search for meaning. And some search for the truth we may never find. Maybe the sea claimed them. Maybe the storm was stronger than any man. Or maybe the real story remains buried in the minds of 3 lighthouse keepers, who took it with them into dark. But one thing is certain. The lighthouse still stands. Its light still turns. And its mystery still echoes across the waves of the North Atlantic. The world is full of mysteries still waiting in the shadows, and this channel brings them into the light. Thank you for watching, and if you want more stories just like this, subscribe, hit the bell, and join me on the next journey. Until then, keep your eyes open. Some mysteries never sleep.